Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Zetsu here, and I'm back at it again to drop What If Naruto Had Cremation. Now, I know, I'm probably going to get hit with so many of these comments saying, but didn't Rogue X already make this What If? Well, to that I say, yeah, he did, but it's my boy, and of course, I'm not going to sit here and copy his idea, and I'm pretty sure that my boy Rogue is totally going to be cool with me doing this, because me and him both have an understanding that not one what if idea is a single person's idea. You can do it as long as you don't copy their story, I guess you could say. But yeah, in case you're over there like fangirling, talking about some you copied Rogue X, then yeah, you can put that argument to rest. All right, so that being said, yeah, today we're going to be covering What If Naruto Had Cremation. The story is going to be a little bit of a vengeful one. It's not going to be near typical Naruto gets powerful, he becomes the Hokage, he becomes the greatest ninja of all time. There's going to be ups and downs to this story, and there is going to be a lot of character development, or so I'm going to try to incorporate that into this one. That being said though, guys, this video is going to be a sponsored one, and if you guys do go on to enjoy the video, then please consider hitting that like button as well as subscribing. But with that being said, I hope you guys go on to enjoy the What If. Alright, so before I begin the video, I am going to be giving you guys, or to some of the people who don't know what cremation is or who Dabi is, a little bit of a background story on who is the man Dabi, the person who wields the quirk cremation. Well, Dabi's a character who, though has had a lot of horrible ups and downs and has committed horrible unspeakable acts of vengeance and done unspeakable deeds, wasn't always a psychotic killer. We know that he once had a family, and at a time he had a father who trained him to try to be somebody better than All Might. Now, if you're new to the story of My Hero Academia, My Hero is basically a story about a boy who was born quirkless, but later goes on to gain a quirk and become what is later known as the #1 hero. During that journey, there's going to be a lot of people who have amazing powers and abilities, because it's basically a superhuman story where everybody and their mother pretty much has a powerful ability. Now, one of the people with powerful abilities was the son of the #2 greatest hero in the world of Japan. And he ended up wanting to be better than All Might someday. However, through trial and error, they ended up finding out that the power that was vested to him wasn't right for his body. Therefore, it ended up causing burns on his body. And that led him to being basically cast aside as soon as his brother was born. That being said, he basically has a fire ability which pretty much allows him to essentially burn things. It's pretty much like Natsu from I really said Dragon Slayer, but no, it's pretty much Natsu from Fairy Tail, or just Human Torch from the comics. That's pretty much what it is. His abilities are just flame ones, and it's not going to be some KK Genkai in the story. It's not going to be some weird ability that only he has. It's going to be a quirk. And that's all it is going to be. It's going to be a stronger quirk because it's in the body of Naruto, somebody who I wholeheartedly believe can handle the power of a little bit of flames if he can handle the Kurama within him. So, with that being said, let's get right into the What If. Alright, so we're going to be starting off our story just like any other Naruto one. Of course, we're going to be starting on the day of Naruto's birth. Now, for any of you guys thinking that anything is going to be changing with Naruto's appearance, it's not. Naruto's not going to basically have anything in the story happen differently up until when Naruto is 4 years old. Just like in canon, Minato will die, Kushina will as well, and Hiruzen will basically say that he's going to be taking care of Naruto until Naruto is old enough to do it for himself. This would lead to Hiruzen basically raising Naruto just like he does in canon, and Naruto would basically grow up to be a 4-year-old just the same as he was in canon. Everything doesn't actually change at all, and it all pretty much stays the same. Pretty much like a room that you never came back to, and then you just come back and everything's just the way you left it. That being said, everything will change, however, one day when Naruto is 4 years old. Now, Naruto would basically just be having a scarf on as he's going out for a walk. At this point, Naruto basically has finally started living by himself, and what this means is basically that Naruto, well, just barely started living by himself. I don't know why I had to repeat myself, but well, I mean, I did it. So also, guys, in case any of you guys noticed a little bit of a cut in audio, there was a little bit of background noise. Not really sure if you guys were able to hear it, but I just want to go turn it off. Oh, Oh my god, I thought it started again. I was about to freak out. No, but yeah. Naruto basically has a scarf on this day, and Naruto would basically proceed to, well, go outside. Naruto would go on a walk, and this one he would basically make it to a little bit of a forest. Now, just like many of you guys know, Naruto ended up actually saving Hinata when he was a kid, and she was as well, from a bunch of bullies who were pretty much making fun of her appearance, her eyes. The Hyuga, well, Keiki Genkai. Naruto would pretty much proceed to walk over to, well, the kids, as he would think that they're all just playing around, but this is when Naruto would walk up closer, and through examination he would realize that those kids were bullying her. This is when Naruto would basically just be like, hey, leave her alone, because Hiruzen had always taught Naruto to always do the right thing, and so Naruto would do this. He would try to help out Hinata, trying to stop those kids from doing those things that they were doing to her, but this wouldn't help. This one, the kids would basically turn their attentions towards Naruto, as they would pretty much begin to say, and what are you gonna do about it? As Naruto would just be like, I'll stop you, because that's the right thing to do. The kids would just be like, look at this kid, as they would all pretty much just start grabbing snow and throwing it at Naruto. Naruto would pretty much just cover his face with his hands as he would run over there, and this is when one of the boys would pretty much push Naruto. Naruto would get pushed into a tree, as he would say, ah, and this is when the kids would pretty much just start punching him, completely beating up Naruto. This is when Naruto would basically start getting angrier and angrier, as a small little flame would appear on the tip of his fingers. Naruto's rage would boil until he would say, enough! As he would basically flick his hand out to the direction of the kids, and all of the kids would get engulfed in big, bright blue flames. This is when Hinata would basically fall back onto the ground, and she would say, Naruto! As I don't know why I just did that, but yeah, she would basically see Naruto, as it's at this point that Naruto would just look up at the kids as their bones and skin would basically begin to melt, and they would fall onto the ground as they would basically get cremated. This is when Naruto would look at his hands and say, I didn't mean to, but Hinata would just run away over to the Hyuga member who was taking care of her, and she would point to the forest where the Hyuga member would basically find the kids. This is when Naruto would run away, and Hinata would basically just say, it was Naruto. I don't know why I'm making that voice. She would basically just say that it was Naruto, as essentially the Hyuga member would go up to the council and pretty much inform Lord Third that Naruto ended up doing that. This is when the parents would find out about a couple of hours later that their kids never came home, and so they would basically begin to search in the forest for them when they would find their bodies cremated. This is when Hiruzen would basically get just a mob of parents freaking out at Hiruzen, telling him that they need to do something about the Nine-Tails brat, that his power has grown, and that they need to get rid of him, because it's basically at this point where they find out, well, people kind of already knew that Naruto was a Jinchuriki, but because he was with Hiruzen, because like he was by himself, none of them really did anything, because Hiruzen had previously taken care of him, and he made the law that people weren't allowed to talk about it. But when something like this happens, you can't just keep your mouth closed. The parents would freak out, and Hiruzen would basically end up giving them all his condolences, saying that Naruto will be placed in jail for 2 years and on serious watch. As the parents would just freak out at this and say that that's not fair, his punishment should be way more severe than that, but Hiruzen would simply put his hand up and say, enough! I'm the Hokage. I decide what punishment he will have, and that's what I decided. 2 years in prison. Now go. Leave. As the villagers would basically just say, no fair. That Hokage's a horrible person. My kid died, for God's sakes. This is when those villagers would pretty much end up seeing Naruto on the street, and they would rush over to him. However, this is when two Anbu members would go over to Naruto before they can get their hands on him and basically just end up knocking him out. The villagers would get pretty happy at this, and they would basically all take turns beating on Naruto. Now, Naruto would arrive at Hiruzen's office pretty beat, but this is when Hiruzen would realize all this stuff and kind of not say anything. He would just give Naruto a sad look as he would say, take him away. This is when he would say that it's for his own good and that he should have thought about what he did, as Naruto would just be passed out unconscious, as he would arrive inside the cell and he would wake up a couple of hours later. This is when Naruto would realize that he's inside of a cell with nothing to see, nothing at all, just darkness, cell, and a little bit of light would have barely been created by the outside. Naruto would realize that all he has is a bed and a little bucket by his side, as well as a little thing of water, a sink. That's all that Naruto gets. Naruto would wake up and start freaking out, saying, "What's going on? Why am I here?" But this one, the guard would not say a word, not say anything to Naruto. And Naruto would say, "Answer me!" as he would shoot bright blue flames at the guard. But this is when the ninja would basically just say, "Wind style, wind bullet jutsu," shooting a giant geyser of wind right at Naruto, causing Naruto to get blown back. As the ninja would proceed to pretty much get the keys, as he would open the cell, and he would pretty much begin to beat on Naruto and tell him what it was that he's in there for. He would say, "That kid that you murdered, that was my little brother," as he would beat on Naruto a bunch of times, and Naruto would simply cry, saying that he didn't mean to. This is when the man would finally get caught by Hiruzen and would then get assassinated by other Anbu members, as he would be basically he would be branded as too close to the case or too emotional, and this is when they would have a different guard. Now, for the following 2 years, Naruto would be stuck inside of this cell and just kind of thinking about what happened. First, Naruto would be angry and resentful at Hiruzen, saying that he knows that he wouldn't have done something like this. He raised him better than that, but Hiruzen would simply not listen. He would say that he made the choice to do that, and the second that he did that, Hiruzen lost control of the situation. This is when Naruto would finally begin to look at his time in prison as a good thing. He needed to pay for what happened to those kids, and Naruto, although sad and a little upset at why he's doing this, would understand. He would finally end up going through the final year, and during that time, Naruto would simply play around with the flames inside whenever nobody was watching. Anytime that there was no guard on duty, Naruto would simply mess around with the flames, and he honestly stopped trying to break out, realizing that that's not going to get him anywhere. Naruto would start working on his physical body for the following 2 years, doing push-ups, sit-ups, basically doing little pull-ups and all that stuff within his cell, and he would pretty much just start building his physical strength. Think Asta type training. He would pretty much just do nothing but calisthenics. This is when Naruto's release date would finally come around, as Naruto would now be six years old, almost getting to the age of 8. No, not 8, but 7, because when Naruto had all that stuff happen, he was pretty much about to be 5 years old. It was about 2 weeks before his birthday would finally arrive. Now, that said, this is when Naruto would finally be released. The day would finally come around where the villagers would finally realize that Naruto's going to be released on this day. And when Naruto would get released, nobody would really care for him. A lot of people would have honestly forgot about his existence, and Hiruzen would have as well. He would have honestly forgot all about Naruto, just thinking about whatever happened to the Nine Tails and Cherokee. But on occasion, he would remember and visit Naruto, but Naruto would have honestly forgotten all about that. This is when all of the villagers would pretty much basically be the ones whose kids died that day, would pretty much be waiting for Naruto outside of the gates. Naruto would walk outside of the village, outside of the prison, and would immediately be met to a bunch of villagers who would look at Naruto with angry looks. They would all have weapons on them, and Naruto would have to run away for his life. Luckily though, Naruto was way more physically adept than each and every single one of them, and he would of course be able to run out of there. This is when Naruto would basically finally be able to escape them, as he would go back to the house that he once knew. Naruto would lay down in his bed thinking that that's over now, but this is when the villagers would arrive to Naruto's place. They would break down his doors. They would begin to berate him and beat him with their bats and their weapons. They would leave scars on Naruto's body, as Naruto would end up kind of just getting angry. But before he could shoot at the flames, Naruto would remember what happened the last time, as Naruto would take the beating and be put in a state of near death. Naruto would have to lie there for the following couple of hours until he was finally able to get up and get a drink of water, which would barely be able to help him stand up. And Naruto would have to wear crutches and put ice on his injuries for the following couple of months. This is when a certain something would notice Naruto, and this something would be Black Zetsu. Now, you guys are probably wondering, what is Zetsu doing here? Well, Zetsu has been watching Naruto. Not only watching Naruto, but watching the village and seeing the way that Naruto has been treated. And this would cause Zetsu to get a big bright smile on his face, because this would lead Naruto to be very vulnerable to being manipulated in the same way that he manipulated Madara Uchiha and the old Otsutsuki descendant Indra. I believe that was his name, Indra and Asura. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Indra. Indra Zero. Yeah, Indra, right? That being said, though, this is when Zetsu would approach Naruto after a couple more months of simply letting Naruto get treated in the way that he did. Naruto didn't come out of his house for weeks until he finally needed food, and every time that he would come out of the house, he would have to run away for his dear life and hope that he doesn't get killed that day. That being said, on one particular day, when Naruto's inside of his house, simply just crying, thinking about everything that's happened in his life. Keep in mind, Naruto is literally 7 years old. No 7-year-old should have to go through this. Zetsu would go into his house, and Naruto would see a dark figure approach him. This one, Naruto would throw a kunai at him, as Zetsu would quite literally just sidestep it and walk over to Naruto. He would turn into a little bit of a humanoid form, as he would proceed to pretty much bring Naruto in for a hug, and he would ask Naruto what his name is. Naruto, finally feeling warmth for the first time, even if it was fabricated warmth, would smile and begin to pretty much spill his guts out to Zetsu, telling him everything. And Zetsu would act as if he's sympathetic for Naruto, as if he gives a damn for him, but really deep down, Zetsu doesn't care a thing about Naruto. He simply cares about what's within him, the Nine Tails. And this would lead to Zetsu pretty much brainwashing Naruto, convincing him to join the Akatsuki and be part of the group of people who pretty much are going to be hunting down-tailed beast. People like him. Naruto wouldn't even be aware of this, but would simply accept after hours and hours of talking to Zetsu. This is when Zetsu would devise a plan that they're going to be needing to fake Naruto's death or get him out of the village, but if they do it through normal means, they're most likely going to go out on a search for him. So, Zetsu would get the idea to basically have Naruto fake his own death, as Naruto would only have a couple of hours to pretty much get things together. Naruto would go outside and he would buy some groceries as he would go to his favorite ramen shop. And this is where Naruto would basically end up going inside, as he would get a bowl and what's his name? Ichiraku would pretty much serve him. As finally when Naruto gets done with his meal, a ninja would follow Naruto into an alleyway where Naruto would use his flames to burn the man alive, killing him. This is when Zetsu would come in and use the transformation jutsu on the dead man's body to basically have him look like Naruto. After this, they would grab a rope and tie it onto Naruto's balcony, as they would tie a noose around the man's neck, and they would pretty much proceed to drop him, making it look as if Naruto ended his own life. After this, they would pretty much end up going out a hidden way, as Naruto would put on a cloak on, and this is when Naruto's journey to joining the Akatsuki would begin. I think it's very fitting that Naruto is going to be joining the Akatsuki, seeing as Dabi ended up joining the League of Villains for his own purposes and motives. Naruto's are going to be vengeance towards the village that did him so horribly, and vengeance upon the one man who could have stopped it all, Hiruzen. He could have stopped everything from happening in Naruto's perspective. He paid his debt to those kids. They deserve what they had. And Naruto's mind would slowly be getting corrupted by Zetsu day after day. This is when Naruto would finally make it to the base of the Akatsuki in only 2 days of traveling. They would make it towards the cliff side of a mountain, as Naruto would only have a couple of scars on his body from the flames, and his hair would still of course be blonde. Now the scars that he does have are not visible, and most of them are from the villagers, but this is when Naruto would arrive at the Akatsuki later. As you guys may be wondering, whatever happened to Naruto? Well, Naruto's body was found, and a bunch of villagers pretty much just ended up telling Hiruzen about the news. They would end up pretty much just throwing his body into a casket and throwing it down the river. And Hiruzen, by the time that he found out, pretty much ended up finding out that Naruto was dead. And so he would have ended up looking through the river, where he would see a body of what looked to be a dead Naruto. He would feel the pulse and see that the body was dead. As Hiruzen would basically go over to the villagers, he would accuse them of pretty much killing Naruto, but they would say that it wasn't them. They found him hanging by a noose by his own building. As Hiruzen would say that, what has he done? Kushina and Minato entrusted Naruto in his capable hands, but instead, all he did was bring a horrible life onto his child. Not only was he thrown in prison for 2 years wrongfully for something that Naruto didn't even meaningfully do, but now Naruto's dead, and Hiruzen has to live with that. This is when Hiruzen would basically just end up looking down, as a just feeling of grief and feeling of helplessness and just weakness would overcome Hiruzen. This would lead to Hiruzen's basically hitting his little little pipe thing more and more every other day. And Hiruzen would kind of just spiral down this hole of just sadness, just emptiness. Hiruzen would end up thinking that life has to go on, as for the next couple of months, Naruto would kind of just Hiruzen would kind of just mourn Naruto's loss, but after that, they would pretty much all forget all about Naruto, and this is when Naruto would pretty much end up making it to his brand new home, the lair of the Akatsuki. This is where Naruto would be introduced to all of the members, as Naruto would be giving a ring, and he would be told to slash his headband. Naruto would have to take it off, as actually no, Naruto's 7, he doesn't even have a headband. So we're just gonna say that Zetsu ended up stealing one and giving it to Naruto. He took it from what's his name? He took it from, what's that one sensei's name? Naruto's teacher, Iruka sensei. He took Iruka sensei's headband. No, he took Mizuki's and pretty much ended up just killing him, right? That being said, Naruto takes the headband and makes a slash straight through the headband, as it would look something very similar to the one that Sasuke has. And this is when Naruto would put the headband around his neck, as Naruto would pretty much just end up saying, "When do we get started?" As all of the Akatsuki members would smile, knowing that they now have the most powerful Jinchuriki under their hands, with Naruto being none the wiser of what their organization's goals are. But they would simply tell Naruto that they're going to help him reach their goals, his goals, if he helps them reach their own. As Naruto for the next following years would pretty much just be viewed as an asset, as Naruto would pretty much start training under each and every individual Akatsuki member in different fields. Now Zetsu would teach Naruto how to hide his presence and all that stuff. Kisame would end up actually teaching Naruto a little bit of Kenjutsu, and if you don't know what that means, basically just means he would use him how to use his sword, alright? Itachi would teach him how to use a little bit of Genjutsu as well as his fire, because when it comes to flames, you cannot go to anybody better than an Uchiha. So it would basically mainly be Itachi, the one who pretty much teaches and trains Naruto for the time being. And such, Naruto would end up gaining a couple of Itachi's habits that he pretty much ended up having himself. As this is when Naruto would, after a couple of years of time skip, so we're just going to say that Naruto was 7, so a 7-year time skip. After all of those years, Naruto would have ended up refining a bunch of skills. At this point, Naruto now has all 5 elemental jutsus. And when it comes to his flames and his cremation quirk, Naruto would have worked tirelessly throughout those 7 years to develop his abilities. And through chakra control, was able to coat his body in a layer of chakra, which pretty much stops Naruto's body from getting burnt as a whole, meaning that Naruto does not have those scars that Dabi has all over his face. However, when it comes to his hair, Naruto ended up dyeing it. It was a black color. Naruto dyed his hair black. And that being said, Naruto pretty much got pretty OP when it comes to the cremation quirk. Not only does Naruto have the base abilities of Dabi now, but Naruto also has some abilities which he sort of ripped off from Konan. Naruto ended up making his own little wings made out of cremation flames. Not only that, but Naruto now has abilities where he can pretty much use flames that don't burn, and use flames that are pretty much on par of the level of Itachi. Flames that are on par with Amaterasu. And Itachi would have definitely ended up having to show Naruto this ability, as Naruto pretty much ended up making cremation his own. Naruto through the years ended up creating abilities which pretty much allowed him to surround himself with a layer of flames in a very similar fashion to the Susanoo. Not only that, but Naruto pretty much ended up copying Itachi's little Susanoo flame ability, in which Naruto basically creates a gigantic little skeletal thing that pretty much wraps around Naruto, similar to Sasuke's ribcage Susanoo level, that pretty much lets Naruto hit opponents from a long range. Not only that, but Naruto mimics the majestic fire flame jutsus and all that stuff. And Naruto also has the ability to create living objects out of his flames. Naruto can make fire clones. He can create little fire birds which attack at distance, which he actually ended up picking up from Deidara. Not only that, but Naruto has this flame ability which pretty much allows him to shoot a flame, a small one at that, which ends up combusting in a later with more range. picking that up courtesy of Datara. That being said, Naruto is pretty OP, as you guys can hear. And so after those 7 years, Naruto ended up picking up a variety of abilities. Did I mention he has all 5 chakra natures? Meaning he has water and ice as well. Actually, no, not ice. He has 5, not ice. That's not a thing. But yeah, Naruto is extremely powerful. I would say he's around the power of a Sage Mode Naruto in canon, and he could probably match up to him pretty well. That being said, Naruto does not have any abilities on par with the Rasengan or the Chidori. Instead, Naruto pretty much ended up developing an ability where he pretty much let's see, what's a cool ability that could be used with flames. Naruto pretty much ends up let's see here, what's a cool ability with flames. Let's see, something awesome with flames. She creates a giant flaming scythe. Yeah, flaming scythe. And he pretty much shoots out flame balls from his palm as if they were ki blasts. Yeah, those are his cool abilities, all right? Just go with that. Don't question me. I know, pretty lackluster, nothing too crazy. But, you know, I'll think of something later on, all right? I'll think of something later on. That being said, though, by this point, as I said, Naruto is 14 years old, meaning that in the Leaf Village, a lot of events have, of course, transpired. The Team 7 ended up getting a different team member that isn't Naruto, and I'm just going to be saying that instead of Naruto, it's Sai. And Sasuke still ended up leaving the village. The Konoha destruction attack still ends up happening. Sai and Sasuke end up defeating Gaara, who doesn't end up changing his ways and still ends up being that same person, just angrier now because he lost a battle. That being said, at this point, Naruto would be 14 years old, and the thing that has been fueling the flames of Cremation for all of these years have been one thing: revenge. That's all Naruto wants. He wants revenge on the village that took everything away from him. Revenge on the village that ruined his life. And that's what it's all been about. That's what it's all been about. That's what every single moment of Naruto's life, ever since he was 7 years old, has been filled with. Revenge. Zetsu and the rest of the Akatsuki members have just been filling Naruto's thoughts with that only thought. That being said, Itachi's already aware of the fact that Sasuke isn't in the village. So at this point, they would have decided that before Naruto's ready to finally attack the Leaf Village, Naruto's going to be having to collect 2-tailed beasts. And at this point, Naruto actually does know of the tailed beast that's inside of him. I forgot to cover that completely. But Kurama mode is still going to be like red chakra that splurges out of him, but Naruto found a way to combine his chakra mode, his little tails, and they basically turn blue, which is, he basically covers Kurama's chakra with his own blue flames to create blue flame Kurama mode or something like that. I can't honestly think of a dope name for it, but just know it looks awesome. Imagine a blue version of a KCM, or no, not KCM, but like a Four Tails blue version, because that's about the max that I'm going to be saying that Naruto can handle without having his body get pushed too far. He can do 5 Tails if he pushes himself, but he starts losing all control at that point. So yeah, Naruto can use about 4 Tails of the Jinchuriki's little energy ball thingy, Kurama, chakra, all that stuff. All right, yeah. I stutter way too much, but yeah, he can use about that much. That being said, though, tangent over, we got to get back into the story. So it's at this point that they pretty much end up telling him that Naruto has to help out with capturing the 1 and 2 Tails Jinchuriki all by himself. And so Naruto pretty much ends up having to embark on this journey. However, before he does go, Itachi would actually end up gifting him a blade. Now, this blade would belong to an old friend of his, Shisui Uchiha. The sword which Shisui actually ended up using before he ended up ripping out his other eye, giving it to Itachi, and then jumping into a waterfall for no reason, because I don't believe that he had to die, bro. I believe that if he wanted to, he could have survived that day, but you know, our boy Shisui decided to make that decision himself, so I won't question him. That being said, This is when Naruto would end up having to embark on this journey to capture the one and two tails. Now Naruto, of course, being himself, would end up actually going out of order. He's not going to be looking for the one tails first. He ends up going to the two tails one first because it's actually closer to him. And Naruto actually picked up some very, very lazy tendencies. Now he'd picked that up from Hidan, because Hidan actually ended up being a sort of like an uncle figure. But Naruto never ended up letting these ties get too close. Naruto never ended up feeling too attached to the Akatsuki, because Naruto at this point has already realized that when time comes to shove, he's going to be thrown into the ghetto statue to finally resurrect the ten tails Jinchuriki. So Naruto this entire time, not only has he been training for revenge, but he's been training for his own survival, because he knows that someday he's going to have to face all of them for his own life. And if he loses that battle, well, worst comes to worst, he'll find out that day. But that aside, Naruto would go on his journey, which would take him about 1 week to finally arrive to the village where the two tails Jinchuriki basically rests at. Naruto would arrive to the water village, or the rain village, I believe it is, the village, I don't know, whatever the village is called, but he would pretty much arrive there. And this is when Naruto would end up looking for the two tails Jinchuriki. When he would see, I have no idea who the two tails is, but we're just going to be saying that Naruto would approach and, he would see the two tails Jinchuriki. Naruto would try to be slick and attack it before it even notices, but the Jinchuriki basically ends up jumping away, and this would lead to a fight in which Naruto has to end up facing the two tails. This is when Naruto would basically end up looking at the Jinchuriki as he would just smile and say, okay. As Naruto would pretty much end up using Kurama to pretty much surround himself with two tails, as he would say, now we're even. And the Jinchuriki, whatever the name is, would pretty much end up just being like, alright, your death wish, boy. As he would end up pretty much rushing at Naruto, and Naruto and the Beast would pretty much rush at each other, as Naruto with one swift move would pretty much take out his blade, as he would coat it in Cremation flames and slice at the Jinchuriki's tails. No, not the tails, I'm so dumb, but the arms. He would, in one fell swoop, would literally cut off both of the Jinchuriki's arms, as in another swift motion, Naruto would quite literally aim his attention towards basically the head of the Jinchuriki's host, and he would pretty much begin to apply pressures. He would crush the skull and begin to pretty much apply heat to it, as he would pretty much end up knocking out the Jinchuriki. And at that point, Naruto would knock him out, as it's at this point that he would pretty much end up contacting Zetsu, letting him know that he's going to be leaving the body there. To be quick about it, because he only has about a couple of hours left to live, from what he can tell. As Naruto, at that point, would pretty much end up searching for the Sand Village. Naruto would arrive at that place in about, let's say, 3 more days, as Naruto would end up finally arriving at the Sand Village. Now, at this point, Gaara ended up becoming a sort of a beast. He ended up losing the battle with his Jinchuriki, and so he became a totally different person. Now the personality of Gaara, which many of us feared, I'm pretty sure, the first time that we watched Naruto the first time around, and we thought like the man was a complete psychopath, his bloodlust state is pretty much his average, like, normal himself. So when Naruto ends up approaching Gaara immediately shoots sand at Naruto, which completely engulfs Naruto's body. And this is when Gaara would say, "Sand burial," as he would crush his hand and Naruto's body would explode, causing flames to basically abruptly shoot out of the sand, as the sand would pretty much end up turning a black color, as Naruto would end up walking over behind Gaara, and he would end up saying, "Looks like you might be some trouble." Now this is when Gaara would end up shooting his sand at Naruto, as Naruto would jump back and take out his sword. This is when Naruto would begin to slice at the air really fast, even coating his sword with cremation, as the sand would just turn black every time that it would touch his flames. And at this point, Naruto would get kind of tired of it, as he would pretty much create a giant flaming scythe, and he would pretty much cover himself with a Susanoo-like body armor made of nothing but cremation flames. As Naruto would smirk and say, "Don't be too boring," he would immediately rush at Gaara, as he would quite literally slash into Gaara. However, this is when Gaara's eyes would go golden, and his arm would turn into that of Shukaku, as he would block the blade, and he would pretty much push Naruto off of him. This is when Naruto would smile as he would rush over to Gaara and just let out a laugh, a maniacal one at that, as he would then end up shooting a giant burst of flame straight at Gaara, as Gaara would shoot a bunch of sand at him, all of the sand that he has at his disposal, as Gaara and Naruto would both basically just be shooting flames and sand at each other respectively, as Naruto would pretty much just end up starting to kind of lose the battle, until Naruto would pretty much just end up opening his eyes wider, and his eyes would turn into a slit-like shape, as Naruto would just say, "Just kidding." As the sand was about to completely engulf Naruto, Naruto would shoot the flame straight at Gaara 1000%, engulfing Gaara's body, causing Gaara to pretty much be cremated. Now, this is when Naruto would pretty much use a jutsu hand sign, as he would pretty much end up causing Gaara's body to be temporarily put in a state where it can't decay, it can't do anything, it pretty much can't die. His body can't die for the next 10 hours. After this, Naruto would throw Gaara's body onto him, as he would put him inside of a seal, and he would pretty much proceed to blitz at the Akatsuki hideout, where the extraction would pretty much happen. Now, all of the Akatsuki members would be present, and they would extract the body, or no, the Jinchuriki from Gaara, causing Naruto to have finally completed his mission. After this, Obito would finally arrive, as he would say, "Great job, Naruto!" He would be in his Obito persona, as it's at this point that Naruto would just smile and say, "And who the hell is this?" As he wouldn't have met Obito yet. He would have just known Pain, but Pain would have told Naruto that it's about time that they finally complete their part of the deal as well. Naruto would smile, thinking that it's about time that he finally gets to have his revenge on the village. But before that, I need to tell you guys about the sponsor of today's video, Fandom. Alright, so Fandom is an awesome anime merch apparel store where you guys can basically get to by going down below to the link in my description. That will take you guys to a page where you guys can find, without a doubt, at least one, I promise you guys, at least one thing that you guys will want. They offer a variety from every popular Shonen Jump anime, which basically means One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, Tokyo Revengers, Seven Deadly Sins, Fairy Tail, Naruto, did I say One Piece yet? Yeah, probably did, but Demon Slayer. They pretty much offer anything you guys are really looking for in dope designs. They have jean jacket designs, hoodie designs, let's say shirts. They even have the cool little Demon Slayer robes that Tanjiro has. It's awesome. It's honestly pretty cool. They even have hats, they have fidget spinners, they pretty much have anything. So it would mean a lot if you guys were to go down below, click on that link, and at least give them a little bit of traction for their website. You don't have to necessarily buy anything, but if you do want to, everything on the store currently is at a 50% discount. Not only that, but you can get an extra 5% out if you use code ZETHER at checkout. That being said, let's get right back into the what if. Okay, so I think it's a pretty good time to get back into the story. As I was saying, Naruto would have a big bright smile on his face, or not a good one at that. It would be a really twisted one. If you guys have ever seen Shigaraki's weird crusty lip smile, that's pretty much what Naruto would get on his face right now. And now, as I said before, Naruto would have black hair, and the way that he styles it is that he basically has it all covering his face. So like, he pretty much has a little bit of the Dabi hairstyle, except it kind of looks more like an Uchiha hairstyle, where it's just long and like it's kind of styled but not really. And Naruto has a very leaned out but also very muscular body structure. So at this point, nobody in the village is really going to be able to recognize him. Naruto also does have the deep blue eyes that, you know, our normal Naruto has in canon. And it's at this point that Naruto would just be smiling. This is when Pain would say, "We attack the Leaf Village in 3 days. Get all of your priorities in order. We will attack soon." Now, this is when Itachi would actually have a lot of things to say about that, because Itachi quite literally slaughtered his entire clan in order to keep the village alive, and now he's forced with either siding with the Akatsuki or trying to defend the Hidden Leaf, and Itachi just doesn't know which path he's going to be taking. But when the time comes, he's going to have to decide what side he's going to be on, the Akatsuki or the Hidden Leaf Village. That being said, everybody would get all of their things in order, and this is when all of them would finally begin to make their way towards the hidden Leaf Village. They would all arrive towards the border of things, and pain would rise into the air as he would say, "The village shall know pain." He would say, "Shinra Tensei," as before he actually gets the chance to finish that and use the jutsu, Naruto would use his cremation flames to get up to Pain's level, as he would say, "Why don't I do this?" As he would quite literally just basically land in the middle of the village, as this is when Naruto would let out a gigantic blast of flames that engulfs almost every villager that you guys pretty much can see. All of them die in a bright blue flame, and a lot of the ninjas who were around also ended up dying as well. Ninjas such as my guy and all those other big shot ninjas, they weren't around. Kakashi, yeah, he's gonna be around, and he was actually wiped out by the flames. I'm saying these flames are as hot as a Materasu. So when I say that these people got cremated almost instantly, they did. Not only that, but it's not like Naruto burnt the entire village to a crisp on sight. No, Naruto burnt a specific area of the village, and so a lot of deaths occurred at this moment. However, this is when Naruto would basically end up turning, as he would see Itachi with his not eternal Mangekyo, but with his Mangekyo Sharingan activated, as he would basically shoot a blast of a Materasu at Naruto. Naruto would quite literally just cover himself with his own flames, as he would say, "What are you doing, Itachi?" And Itachi would say that he's fighting for his village, finally doing the right thing, as Naruto would quite literally blitz at Itachi and say, "I always knew you were weak," as he would grab his sword and say, "You're not willing to do whatever it takes." Itachi would get angry after hearing that statement, as he would quite literally, a lot of noise in the background. I'll record when the noise stops. Alright, the noise stopped. As he would quite literally go over to Itachi and slice. But this is when Itachi would use the Yada mirror to reflect the blow right back at Naruto. And Naruto would be blown back. This is when Naruto would basically just get a big bright grin on his face, as he would say, "I always did wonder who would win in a death battle between us." He would blitz at Itachi, as he would cover his body in flames, as slowly you could basically see Naruto saying, "Ah!" But as he does, bright blue flames slowly begin to cover his body like armor. Think Iron Man. As he would basically blitz at Itachi and punch straight at the Yada mirror, shattering it. As Itachi would just widen his eyes as he would try to slash at Naruto with the Totsuka blade. However, this is when Naruto would basically land on the ground, as he would create a gigantic Susanoo-like armor around himself, as he would quite literally get into a battle with Itachi. However, this is when Deidara would come up from behind Itachi and shoot a bunch of bombs straight at Itachi, causing Itachi to have to turn back and forth, as it's at this point that Kakazu would say, "I never did like you," as he would shoot a giant blast of a beam of condensed energy right at Itachi, as Itachi would pretty much start getting attacked from every side by almost every other Akatsuki members, and all of the paths of pain would pretty much be fighting against a bunch of ninjas who don't have any other choice. Kakashi pretty much ends up getting handled by another path of pain, and when it comes to other ninjas such as Asuma and Kurenai, they're pretty much taken out by people like Deidara, no, not Deidara, but Kisame and Sasori, people such as them. This is when Naruto would finally basically end up breaking Itachi's Susanoo, as he would approach Susanoo slowly in a near-death state, as he would go over to Itachi and say, grab him by the throat, as he would say, "And after I kill you, I'm gonna kill your brother." And this would cause Itachi to widen his eyes and get angry, as he would shoot a giant burst of flames right at Naruto's direction. But Naruto would quite literally just smile, saying, "Flames don't hurt me. Your measly flames won't do a thing to me," as Itachi would just fall onto the ground limp, and Naruto would just start laughing maniacally. This is when Naruto would basically turn towards a ninja who was standing outside. Now this ninja would be Hiruzen, as he would say, "What's the meaning of this?" He would see a bunch of ninjas with cloaks, as Naruto would grab his Akatsuki robe and throw it off of himself, saying, "Long time no see, Hiruzen." And Hiruzen would immediately recognize that voice. He would say, "Naruto?" Naruto would look at him as he would say, "The one and only." as he would basically just go over to Hiruzen, as he would walk over there slowly and just tell everybody to go do their own thing, as he would say that this ninja is his. This is when Hiruzen would turn to see the dead body of Itachi, as he would say, Itachi. And one thought would just be going through his head, how is Naruto still alive? But he would have to get into a battle stance, as Naruto would say, no, don't worry, I don't want to fight, I just want to talk. Hiruzen would put his guard down a little bit, as Naruto would walk over to him and pretty much end up taking off like his little cloak, because not only does he have the Akatsuki robe, but he has like this cloak of his own, which pretty much has like a hoodie on top of his head. Naruto would take it down, as he would show himself with a couple of scars on his face, almost to the degree of Dabi. Nothing crazy, he only has a couple of scars from like battle damages, and the couple of scars that he does have are mostly from Itachi. But yeah, his face would be a little mangled, to say the least. Nothing too crazy. Naruto still is a sexy beast nonetheless, but of course he ends up revealing what he looks like, and Hiruzen would just say, I thought you, as Naruto would say, well, you thought wrong, old man, but you're about to be. As Hiruzen would immediately get on guard and say, but I raised you, Naruto, what is the meaning of this? Naruto would immediately just get angered. He would have so much fury in his eyes. He would say, raise me? You basically breeded me to be a punching bag. Not only that, but the second that you knew that I did something, I messed up, you threw me under the bus, locked me up in jail, and when villagers consistently battered my body and treated me like I was subpar human, you stood by and watched it. Not only did I ask you to help me once or twice, I asked you multiple times. I begged you. But what did you do? You simply said, I'm sorry, Naruto. That's out of my hands. You're the village Hokage, for God's sakes. You could have stopped all of this from happening. Had you done something, I would have been on your side. We could have fought against these people together, but no. You turned your back to me, and now you're gonna suffer and watch your village burn to a crisp. He would then see a villager that's running away, trying to escape with his life, as Naruto would turn his hand and shoot a big bright ball of flames, as it would engulf the villager and it would basically disintegrate him. Hiruzen would notice this, as he would say, well, then I guess I have no choice but to fight. As he would rush at Naruto, and Naruto would not cover himself with any armor, nothing at all. Naruto would rush over at Hiruzen, as they would both get into a pretty dope Taijutsu bout. Hiruzen would be using Enma's bow, as Naruto would be using the blade. And this is when Naruto would pretty much switch that blade, as he would throw it onto the ground and pretty much end up creating his own scythe. As Naruto and Hiruzen would be going at it, Naruto would just be laughing maniacally, as he would say, "This is your leader?" As he would be screaming it out so that everybody can hear. This pathetic old fool can't lead anything, as he would kick Hiruzen into a building by his chin. Hiruzen would then stand back up, as he would look over towards Naruto, who would land on him, as he would begin to apply pressure straight at Hiruzen's rib. He would begin to stomp out Hiruzen's rib, as he would say, watch as your leader gets crushed out by a mere 14-year-old. As he would basically begin to stomp and stomp on Hiruzen's chest, as Hiruzen would just cough out blood. And this is when Naruto would say, you never helped me once. He would aim his hand at Hiruzen, as Hiruzen would say, wait, Naruto, your father wouldn't want this. As Naruto would say, father, what are you talking about? Hiruzen would then tell Naruto that he's the son of the 4th Hokage. And Naruto's eyes would widen, as he would say, I was the son of the 4th? And all of those people still treated me like that? As Hiruzen would then say, but Jiraiya, as Naruto would just aim his hand straight at Hiruzen's skull, as he would cover it and just let it burn. He would place his hand over Hiruzen's skull, as flames would engulf Hiruzen's head, and he would fall down to the ground. As Naruto would say, I want every woman, child, and man dead by the time that the hour hits. As every Akatsuki member would just be having so much fun, and every woman and child would be going down as if it was ants, as if they were stepping on a mere ant farm. This is when Naruto would pretty much just be standing at the center, spinning, laughing, smiling, thinking that he finally did it, as Naruto is finally going to be able to have some calm, some peace within his life. Naruto would then look towards the direction of the village, as they would all leave that area, and they would see that it was nothing but a black crisp. Nothing was there no more. And when it comes And when it comes to all of the other ninjas, who I'm pretty sure you guys are probably wondering about, like Sasuke, what ends up happening with him? Does he find out about his brother? No. By the time that ends up happening, Sasuke's barely getting into like 1 year of his training. So Sasuke still hasn't completed his 3-year training skip. So by this point, Sasuke has no idea about what happened to the Leaf Village or any of that stuff. And when it comes to Guy, his team returns a couple of days later to find the village in complete ruins. Nothing but ashes would be left behind. And this is when Guy would get extremely enraged. Rock Lee, Neji, and Tenten would be the only real survivors of the hidden Leaf Village. And that's how it's going to stay. The only other people who are pretty much survivors are people like Jiraiya and Tsunade. However, Naruto did take into account that Hiruzen whispered one last thing to him before he died. The name, Jiraiya. He would ask Pain about who this person is, as Pain would actually get a little bit of a weird, worried look on his face, as he would then say, "It's nobody." Naruto would say that he doesn't believe him, as he would yell out to Pain that he better give him answers, as Pain would say, "You better watch who you're speaking to, boy." Naruto would turn towards Pain's direction as he would say, "I'll find out on my own." He would throw the Akatsuki robe on, as he would then tell everybody that he's leaving, as all of them would pretty much just end up saying whatever, as they would all end up going. And Pain would look at Naruto as he would give him the cold stare with the Rinnegan, saying, "If you leave now, I will hunt you down." As Naruto would look at Pain and just say, "I wish you would try it." As he would walk off, and Pain would just not say a word, as he would basically aim his hand at Naruto and say, and basically use his pulling ability, as he would pull Naruto straight at him, but Naruto would quite literally just turn into literal flames, not his human body. He would engulf into giant flames, and as soon as all the flames would get pushed right at Pain, the main body of the Six Paths would burn into nothingness, as Naruto would quite literally turn into his human form once again, and he could actually turn intangible. Naruto would then walk off as he would begin to search for Jiraiya. Weeks and weeks on end would be happening until Jiraiya is finally found by Naruto. And Naruto would finally get to find Jiraiya, where he would get the answers that he has so desperately been seeking. Jiraiya would tell him that he's the legendary Sani and his godfather. And after Naruto hears that, Naruto doesn't need to hear anything else. Jiraiya would end up being pretty happy at the fact that he meets him, and Naruto would pretty much just stab Jiraiya in the back when he makes Jiraiya think that everything's fine. But Naruto would basically just shoot a bunch of flames right into Jiraiya's heart, as he ends up killing him, and Jiraiya falls onto his knees, saying, as he would fall onto the ground, and this is when Naruto would say, "No godfather of mine would let me live through that hell," as he would end up walking back over to the Akatsuki hideout, where he would then see Nagato, or no, what's his name? What's the orange body that Deku? No, not Deku, but I'm so sorry, but Naruto ended up destroying. Naruto would end up walking into the Akatsuki base, as he would say, "I think it's about time that we get done with a battle that's been coming for the longest," as this is when Pain, Obito, basically all of the Akatsuki members would not really know what he's talking about, but Naruto would just turn his attentions towards Pain, as he would say, "You're unfit to be the Akatsuki's leader," as he would look towards the 5 paths of Pain which are basically remaining there, and he would pretty much end up blitzing them, as he would destroy the strongest one first, or the second strongest, I guess you could say, since the Diva path was already destroyed. After this, Naruto would turn towards the Akatsuki members, as he would pretty much just end up telling them that he was a necessary sacrifice, to which all of them would be pretty angry. And it's at this point that Naruto would then have a gigantic fight with the rest of the Akatsuki members. Now, I do have to mention one thing. All of them are alive. All of them. So Naruto has to destroy each and every single one of them. The first one that Naruto would start with is going to be the hardest one that he would have thought to have to kill. Hidan. Naruto would blitz him, as a tear would actually shed from his eye, because he was the only person who kind of made him feel as if he had a friend. But if he doesn't get rid of him, then he won't be able to get rid of the rest of them. He would cremate him completely. Hidan's existence would be no more. And after this, he would then basically blitz towards Konan, as he would quite literally engulf himself in a giant Susanoo aura, as nobody would be able to penetrate him but Kisame would fuse with his sword and basically rush at Naruto. And Naruto would kind of just have to fight all of the Akatsuki members with the exclusion of Obito. And by the time that about an hour hits, Naruto would have destroyed each and every single one of the Akatsuki members. All of them. All of their bodies covered in flames and ashes. And if you guys have seen Invincible, he pretty much did what Omni-Man did to all those little superheroes when he killed them all and massacred each and every single one of them. That's pretty much what Naruto did to the Akatsuki. This is when Obito would walk inside, as he would say, "What have you done?" With a deep voice, no longer playing Obito, he would say, "What have you done?" As he would turn towards Naruto, who would simply have a smile on his face as he would walk away from Tobi, thinking that he couldn't do a thing to him. But he would then basically say, "I am Madara Uchiha," as this is when Naruto would realize what's going on, and they would immediately get into a battle. Naruto would shoot a giant ball of flame at Tobi, which Tobi would phase right through. And Naruto, upon realizing this, would see that this is going to be the hardest battle of his life. He would then blitz at Obito as he would basically get into a taijutsu bout, landing punches, kicks, hits, and Naruto would then place an explosive tag on Obito's back, as Naruto would pretty much detonate it, but Obito would phase right through it, as the tag would just go through his body, and Obito would blitz over at Naruto. Naruto would turn himself into a giant phoenix-like creature, as Naruto would blitz at Obito, and using his wings would pretty much flap them at his direction, as Obito would phase through the flames and would appear right behind Naruto, kicking him straight into the mountain, as he would say, "You destroyed my dream!" As he would proceed to basically throw punches and kicks, he would kick Naruto into a mountainside, as he would basically go through it completely. And Naruto would then get kicked into the air, as Obito would then basically grab the chains from his little Kamui dimension, as he would wrap them around Naruto's neck and begin to choke him out. But this is when Naruto's eyes would turn red and slit-like, as they would immediately get engulfed in a blue flame, and Naruto would push himself to open all 5 of his tails, trying to beat Obito, coating himself in the Cremation 9 Tails aura. But that wouldn't be enough. Obito is still way faster than him, and Naruto would realize that there's not a thing that he can do to Obito. Not a thing. He can phase through all of his attacks. His flames are useless. Jutsu are going to basically be useless against this guy here. There's not a thing that he's going to be able to do. So Naruto basically ends up just looking towards Obito, as he would grab onto him, and Obito would end up phasing in, but Naruto would basically just end up standing there, as Obito would have to phase out, and Naruto would end up developing a plan. He's just gonna burn his flames for as long as he possibly can. Obito won't be able to survive that. And so Naruto would just say, "You're gonna die here and now, even if that means I have to take you with me." As he would then say, "Ah!" as all of his flames would go haywire, and his flames would pretty much just begin engulfing everything. A giant 5-mile radius of blue bright flames would burn, as Obito would pretty much have to stay in the Kamui dimension. But as soon as he returns, his body would get engulfed, but he would end up having to use Kodo Matsukami to pretty much, or no, not Kodo Matsukami, but what's that one jutsu that pretty much all Uchiha have, that pretty much ends up letting them rewrite everything in history by losing their Sharingan? I think it was I don't know, dude, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The jutsu that pretty much ends up reverting everything, the one that Danzo used, he pretty much ends up using that, coming back to life, similar to the fight that he had with Konan. And it's at this point that Naruto's body would fall onto the ground, as it has all of the exact same burns that Dabi had as well, as Naruto's eyes would go completely white. There isn't a trace of anything from Naruto there, and Naruto's body would have pretty much just turned completely white. Naruto died. Or did he? Naruto is the reincarnation of certain 2 people. So there's a chance that Naruto could come back even stronger, with 1/2 of the Sage of Six Paths power, to finally finish the mission which was left there. But if you guys want me to continue this series of what if Naruto was had cremation. I was about to say was Dabi's reincarnation, but what if Naruto had cremation? Then you guys are going to be having to smash a grand total of 2,000 likes. If this series does well enough, then I will be continuing it and picking off right where I had left off. However, if it doesn't, then you guys can all pretty much just think that Naruto ended up dying and there's no hope for him coming back. If the series does well, however, I will be bringing it back with an arc where Naruto gets his revenge on Obito and he finally is able to live his life in peace. It'll be a gigantic battle. So if you guys want to see that, then definitely like up the video. But with that being said, I hope you guys went on to enjoy the video. If you did, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and be on the lookout for part 2 if and when it comes out. But with that being said, I love each and every single one of you guys. It has been your boy Zetsu, and I am out. Peace.